Hi, everyone. Welcome to Navel Gazing, the Valley Indy podcast. My name is Eugene Driscoll. Today, my guest is Sharon Closius, the president and CEO of the Valley Community Foundation. Hi, Sharon. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks, Eugene. It's always great to be here with you.
And joining Sharon, making his first appearance on this podcast, is John Zseller. He is the Scout Executive of the Housatonic Council of the Boy Scouts of America. Welcome back to the no, not welcome back. What am I saying, John? Welcome to the broadcast, John.
Eugene, I appreciate that. You're right. We have been together on another broadcast, I think, on the radio together.
Oh, that's right. Oh, that was a couple of years back.
Yep.
That one slipped my mind. That's right. Yeah. It's hard. I don't even know what day it is. You have to excuse me, especially after election day. And I just want a quick shout out to the public officials and all the volunteers who were there at the polls on election day on Tuesday. You know, the Valley Indy, just us alone in 3 towns, we had 6 races to cover and 1 ballot question in Derby. And I was just knocked out by the transparency and how easy it all was on Tuesday. So, I mean, we've never experienced voting in a global pandemic before, but I was really impressed and inspired by how great everyone was locally. So thank you all for that. What we're going to talk about on this episode, I'd like to talk about how the Housatonic Council is doing amid the COVID-19 pandemic, and then talk about ways in general the public can support scouting in the lower Naugatuck Valley. But first, Sharon, I wanted to talk to you. You, as everyone knows, has your finger on the pulse of what's happening with nonprofits in the Valley. So I'm wondering, with the pandemic now resurging over the last few weeks in Connecticut, how are Valley nonprofits doing? What's a realistic assessment of how our nonprofits are doing financially? What are you hearing? What are they doing to cope, Sharon?
Well, thanks, Eugene. I think that what I'm hearing is that our nonprofits are figuring this out. They are so incredibly resilient of trying to say, okay, what can we do to make this work? How can we serve our constituents that need our help and our support during this time, probably more than ever. But also, we knew that this, surge was going to happen again. Didn't know, of course, how bad or how it's going to be. And we still don't know throughout the winter what's going to be happening. So we are still collecting funds for the COVID-19 response and recovery fund, because we know our nonprofits are going to need the help and the support when we get on the other side of this pandemic, where they're trying to get into more of the recovery mode of, okay, we depleted a lot of our reserves. We are, down so much in our revenue. So we anticipate that these nonprofits are going to really be needing the support and the help in the coming months, actually in the coming years. 2 years probably will need aid in this recovery, because at some point the federal and state governments are going to be coming back on their support. And I don't even know, some of the nonprofits don't even get federal or state support. So it's those ones that are really in need of support.
And then, Sharon, what are some ways someone listening to this podcast can help out? Where can they go today to help our nonprofits that obviously do a ton of work in the Valley?
Yeah, I would actually have people stop and think about their favorite nonprofits, what nonprofits have been doing work that they really admire, and that they know that other Valley residents that probably have more need than they have could use that support, whether it's a food bank, whether it's the scouting program or team with Meals on Wheels, any of those nonprofits. I would, either one, give directly to that nonprofit to be able to support their general needs. You could give to the COVID-19 fund, which is what we have at the community foundation, but it is that collaboration between the Community Foundation, the Valley United Way, the Chamber, and the Health and Human Service Council. So there's one fund that has been established so that nonprofits will be able to go out and apply for grants from that specific fund and, you know, be able to help that way. So I would look at those different ways of being able to help. And, you know, when you brought up the vote, I'll tell you, when I was in line, I was thinking I should have volunteered for, you know, the assistance on that day because there were so many people.
Mm.
And, you know, volunteering, if you find that your organization that you like can use volunteers, you know, approach them, because a lot of them had to lay off people. And they're maybe shorthanded and could use some volunteers too.
That's good to hear and great advice. And then, John, in terms of the Housatonic Council, I mean, this is one of the backbones of the Valley. Just as an observer, I'm not from here. I guess I've lived here about 15, 20 years at this point in Derby. And it's definitely a backbone. It's a staple here in the lower Naugatuck Valley. How has the pandemic, now something we've never experienced, impacted your organization specifically?
Unfortunately, greatly in many ways, but in other ways, it's been an opportunity for us. Where it's affected us is we weren't able to run summer camp this year. So for the first time in 60 years, Camp Strang was quiet. Nobody was in Goshen, Connecticut, enjoying a summer away. Our units have not been meeting. If they've been meeting, they've been meeting by Zoom. Those are the unfortunate parts. So that weekly meeting that we normally have is not happening. What's good? What good has come out of it? Well, scouting is returning to some of its basics, and our units are starting to meet once again and doing more outdoor activities. So if you follow us on our Constant Contact that we send out, our weekly newsletter, we're putting up photos of our units actually doing activities outside, taking hikes. We had one unit that did a rain gutter regatta outdoors. And instead of a rain gutter regatta is an old event where you make your little boat, you put in a rain gutter and you blow on it to move it down the rain gutter, and it's a race. Well, one of the units came up with an idea of using hand fans rather than blowing on them, so to move the regatta. So it's helping our units think in a different model to provide programs to our youth.
Yeah, and John, one thing I was looking at right before I hit record, basically, but if people go to HousatonicBSA.org, that's the organization's website, and I got onto your latest email Constant Contact up there, and I was really impressed by how much is going on. It says something to the resilience of the organization and the people involved. But like, just for instance, it says you have Council Community Day coming up November 21st. Can you explain that to me a little bit? It sounds exciting and something we need amidst all the headlines happening on the planet the last few months.
Sure. So as it says in there, what we want to do is get everybody together on one day. You know, we've had to cancel 2 camporees, cancel summer camp. It's been unfortunate for our youth who enjoy those events. They get to see everybody who's involved in scouting. So Community Day, what we want to do is keep everybody apart, but actually give back to our community and our chartering organizations by doing 3 hours of service for each person, we hope, as an average. Whether it's literally cleaning up the leaves around a church, putting in fence posts somewhere, helping at one of the Valley United Way community gardens, you know, cleaning them out, getting them ready for the spring. Any opportunity we might have to work with our charter organization or community partner to donate some hours and have our youth continue to experience service. And we think one day is a great way for us as a whole to donate a lot of hours to the community rather than in individual projects.
And a shout out to an Eagle Scout project that I drive by every day near my house in the city of Derby. The Ansonia Derby Dog Park was an Eagle Scout project. Last name was Olenowski, I believe. Olenowski. I may be getting that wrong, but it's like had this lasting effect that's been great. It's used every day, and it was the work of a Boy Scout. So that's very interesting there. And then, on top of all this, one thing we're going to talk about is there is, I don't know, I guess we could call it a partnership happening between the Boy Scouts of America, Housatonic Council, and the Valley Community Foundation. The Boy Scouts as a national organization, the larger picture is it did file for bankruptcy a few months back. For lawsuits that are happening that have been well publicized all over the country. But there's this talk that councils might be regionalized or merged in some way. So from what I understand, to keep it local, to remember the Valley, to keep this 100 years of scouting in the Valley alive, there is a legacy fund being established. Now, I can't balance my checkbook. What is a legacy fund? I guess, Sharon, and then we can go into exactly what this legacy fund is and how it will benefit the Boy Scouts.
Well, a legacy fund, especially in this concept, is because the Housatonic Council is one of our Valley legacies. I mean, it has been around for 100 years, and there's a lot of people that have gone through scouting in the Valley, that live in the Valley and outside the Valley. And so John and I were talking about the importance of, this scouting, as John just got done talking about, the work that they're doing with the youth of volunteering and working on different projects like the one you talked about with Eagle Scouts. John can tell you how many Eagle Scouts there are that came out of the Housatonic Council, but it's so impressive. And we want to, make sure that scouting is always going to be available to the Valley youth. And so this legacy fund is a permanent fund, and it is hopefully the recipient of estate gifts. When somebody wants to leave, a certain amount of money in their will or their IRA beneficiary, not the whole thing, even though John, I know, would love to have that whole thing, but some people might say, well, I'll give $1,000 to the Scouts or $5,000 to the Scouts, but they give it to the community foundation for the benefit of this fund. So that way the fund their gift is completely protected against any mergers or any mergers basically is what we're concerned about, because if there is a merger, most likely the assets go and get combined into the successor organization. And we wanted to make sure that what is here for the Valley stays in the Valley and to benefit scouting in perpetuity. So the gifts would come to this fund at the Community Foundation to be protected for the scouting.
And then, John, what's the specific name of the fund that's been set up?
So we call it the 1920 Society, and the reason for the name is in 1920, that was when the Housatonic Council was originally formed.
And then in terms of how, what's your view on this fund? How did you decide to set it up, and how will it benefit scouting here in the Valley, John?
Yeah, so the fund was set up specifically to make sure that funds stay local within the Valley. Housatonic Council, unfortunately, for a number of years, has always been the talk of merger talks. As we watch all organizations combine because they need to consolidate employees, there's not enough folks to serve. There's constantly a discussion of, hey, we should merge with Housatonic Council. And the Housatonic Council executive board and members of the council have always stayed strong to say, no, we need to stay independent. We are successful. We do our job well. Let's keep doing what we do. So could it eventually happen? unfortunately, in this day and age, who knows? You know, we talk about nonprofits and their struggle during COVID, and just the struggle in general of all nonprofits. So what could happen in the future? We don't know. What we want to make sure is that there would be funds set aside that would exclusively be used in the lower Naugatuck Valley for our youth to continue in scouting and to support an employee or support some fundraising opportunities, support camperships, give our youth back, give back to our community, and give back to our scouting program so our youth can continue in a scouting program and not become part of a larger organization. And sometimes, you know, you're a large fish in a small pond, you become a small fish in a big pond as you grow. So we want to make sure that our large fish and that all our fish in our pond stay big fish and don't become small fish in a larger pond and get forgotten about.
Mm. And I was watching the video that was prepared to sort of an informative video that was prepared for this fund newly set up at the VCF. And I think it said there were 2,000 Eagle Scouts over the past 100 years. Is that correct?
I would say at least 2,000 Eagle Scouts over the last 100 years. We average about 20 Eagle Scouts a year. And that's probably a low number because in the early stages of scouting, there were many more youth involved in the program. So there are probably a few more Eagles attained. I mean, and I'm going to get the number wrong, and I'm sure Troop 3 will correct me, but there's at least 325 Eagles in their 105-year program.
Wait, hold on. I'm getting an email from Randy Ritter. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I love Randy Ritter.
Listen to this.
Right. Yeah. But then in terms of, you know, we're talking about a legacy fund and thinking about scouting and giving back to it. How important is it for you to target all the people that pass through scouting in the Valley? How do you do it? How do you get, it's sort of like, you know, like colleges get their graduates to give back. Is that particularly challenging for your organization or?
Yes, it is difficult for our organization. As many folks, while they grew up in scouting, became Eagle Scouts, many have moved on to other parts of the country. And so they're spreading the word of Housatonic Council and their opportunity for scouting. And they're joining back, you know, they're joining in with their children. But they do finally remember their time here in Housatonic Council. So we want to make sure they have an opportunity to give back. And they grew up and they've grown up and are, as much as we like to think youth, we try to hide them from everything going on. Our youth always, you know, they hear that conversation of like, oh, I heard your council was merging, or they could eventually merge. And so, you know, those that might want to give back may not give back because they want their money to go to the Lower Naugatuck Valley, to their unit that they participated in, to their organization.
Yeah, that's hugely important. And then, Sharon, if someone's listening and they want to set up something with this specific legacy fund, how does one go about that? And it's called the 1920 Society Fund again.
Right. They can literally just go on to our website, www.valleyfoundation.org, click on the funds, and then look for the 1920s fund. You're up, I think, close to the top because you start with a number. I'm not sure, but and then you can make a donation right to that fund, you know, through using a credit card. But if you wanted to do a stock gift or find out how you can put this fund in your estate plan, give me a call and I can help you through that. We can do stock, we can take IRA distributions to this fund. You know, some people at the end of the year are looking to say, okay, how can I do a disbursement from my IRA? And they can do it directly to this fund because of the type of fund it is. So to give the community foundation a phone call would help too.
And then I suppose in general, for a long time now, the valleygivesback.org has been a sponsor of this podcast. And so I've been saying the phrase plan giving for a while, but that's another resource for people if they want to find out
different ways of giving. Yeah, the Valley Gives Back website is a resource for people to be able to explore the different ways of giving back. and primarily giving back through their estate plan or through their IRA, like you're saying, a planned gift. You know, if they want to give, say, to the Housatonic Council, a portion of their life insurance. Maybe they have a $100,000 life insurance. They could actually say, I would like 1/10 of this to go to the Housatonic Council. And so going to the Valley Gives Back, kind of that website gives ideas of how things work, you know, to do trusts or just even these simple type of gifts that people don't think about doing. If by the end of the year, we still have, excuse me, appreciated stocks, you know, that's one of the reasons why the Community Foundation has a relationship with all of our nonprofits, because we can accept securities and stocks for our nonprofits, because many of them do not have that capacity to, you know, work through that process, and we can do that for them.
Gotcha. And then, John, just in terms of your numbers in general, you had mentioned that I guess in general participation is down compared to what it may have been years ago. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but in general, what's the trend you're seeing? And I know, you know, in the middle of a pandemic, it's got to be challenging. And what's the council doing to try to get more people involved?
Sure. So yes, unfortunately, it's been trending down. Part of that's changing in the population for the valley. You know, we always hear that there are unfortunately folks that are moving out of the valley, but so that obviously brings less youth. And then just in general, families are having less children than they did years ago. So that also reduces our total available youth. What are some of the things we've done? Well, in the last year, folks may not be aware of this. The scouting program has the opportunity for young ladies who might be interested in joining the scouting program. So traditionally, when it still comes under the banner Boy Scouts America, that is our name. However, our traditional Eagle Scout youth are now called Scouts BSA, and that is for both young men and young ladies. And actually in 2020, on February 8th, we will be announcing the first class of young ladies who have become Eagle Scouts. Unfortunately, there's no one here in the Valley right now, but there's still time. So we hope that we'll have someone who has achieved that rank. But across the nation, there will be a number of young ladies that are honored with the Eagle Scout rank. In our Cub Scout packs, we have already young ladies participating. We've had them participating since September of 2018. And what we're finding is that everybody enjoys it. Both the parents and the youth are enjoying it. For our young ladies, it's always been that, you know, my brother's been involved and I thought they were having fun and I wanted to do it with them. So it's been an opportunity for us to open scouting up to the entire family and let everyone participate and let the young ladies earn rank and earn badges along with the young men that are participating. So that's been an opportunity for us. And then in addition to that, we're also trying to, advertise, get as much information out to everybody about what Scouts do and how anyone can participate. And we're looking forward to once we're able to get outside. Scouting is very interactive, and that's one of our biggest issues. We're so interactive that when we all got shut down and put in our homes, everybody's like, well, how do we run scouting? And so many of our units went to Zoom calls. And much like school, that lasted for a while, and then everybody's gotten kind of bored with Zoom calls. But they're trying. And then we've moved now to this more outdoor opportunity, and that's brought a number of our youth back. So it's just a matter of the comfort level of our families who have been involved in scouting, a comfort level of new families who might want to get involved in scouting. How are we handling the pandemic? And so that's why we really want our units, and our units are doing it more outdoor events so that the youth can remain physically distant, but have fun while participating with their friends.
And if a family wants to learn more about the Housatonic Council and the local troops and the Cub Scouts and all that good stuff, where can they start?
Sure, there's two places to start. One, if they're interested in joining, they can go to beascout.org, beascout.org. or to our website, HousatonicBSA.org.
Okay, and I think maybe we'll close out. I saw on the VCF website a few months ago, and it was sent to me, and then I promised, oh, I'll share this on the Valley Indie website, and then I never did because that's the story of my life. I'm sorry. But the VCF digital annual reception, you can check out at valleyfoundation.org. It's a well-produced, very informative presentation. How did it come about, Sharon?
Oh, thanks for asking that question. Well, because we had to cancel our annual reception, we wanted to find different ways of being able to acknowledge the work that is going on in the Valley. And so we did a couple of things. You have this budget line item for a certain amount of money that you're going to spend on your annual reception, the invitations and meals and food and all that. So one of the things we first started doing was to actually give back to those first responders, those individuals that had put their lives on the line as far as the initial COVID response when we first had this experience back in March and April. And then the next thing we did was to say, we need to acknowledge all of our new fund holders. And the 1920s Fund is one of those new fund holders. So what we did was we said, okay, let's just put our annual reception together in video takes. So if you go to our website and you click on it, you can go, you can see me just do an introduction, or you can go to our board chair to see his overview of what's going on, or our program chair talking about our grants. But then you'll see all of the new funds that were established and the stories. And they're just little 2-3 minute segments of what that fund is all about. And I would just really encourage everybody to go and take a look at those, because some of those stories, and you're just going to really be moved and touched by some of those stories. And a lot of those people, you're going to know who they are. You're going to know the scouts, and you're going to know a couple of others that are there. The Shelton Land Trust, the Oxford Land Trust, they all established funds this past year. And we want to make sure that we were thanking them properly for that.
And that's valleyfoundation.org. Those are all the questions I have for this broadcast. John, is there anything else you wanted to add about the Housatonic Council?
We're still here for 100 years, still for 100 more, and we want to congratulate our units who have actually completed 100 miles for scouting, which is a great, one of those outdoor opportunities we were talking about, where our units collectively are hiking 100 miles or 200 miles. We even have one unit that's approaching having hiked, actually, when I say a unit, I should be more specific, a Cub Scout pack. So a group of youth from 5 to 10 with their parents are approaching hiking 1,000 miles since April.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's tremendous. Thank you. And Sharon, is there anything else you wanted to add before we sign off?
I just want to put in another pitch for our wonderful Valley nonprofits, that they need your support now more than ever. And you can do it in a number of different ways that we talked about already. So, and I can't say enough about John and the Housatonic Council. They just do a fabulous job at helping our youth really grow into solid leadership adults.
Okay, well, on behalf of anybody listening, obviously the Housatonic Council and the VCF are hugely important and do a ton for the community. So it is my pleasure to have had you on, John, and you as well, Sharon. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Eugene. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Eugene.